Here comes something.
All right, welcome to the Golden Glory Podcast, the bi-weekly MMO show that dives beneath the surface, asks the hard questions, and uncovers how you, the player, can maximize your impact in-game. Our current focus is the upcoming MMORPG from Artcraft and Entertainment, Crowfall. This is Episode 6, Tully's Request. We are broadcasting live on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2015. Now, for the introductions, the all-star cast. We have Honraz the Economist. Say hello.
Hey everybody! It's been so long since we've talked. We feel like we have so much to talk to you about.
And there is Lethality the Trademaster. How are you, sir?
Hey, what's going on? Ready for some crow falling today.
Crow falling.
And of course, the virtuous hero, Aerowolf.
Hello, hello, hello. How's it going, everybody?
And I am Chief Sarkhan, the Completionist. It is great to be back once again, because we still cannot count to 2. Of course, this was a requested show, so we are here to fulfill that desire, that need for us to talk about Crowfall once again. But please, let's start off with the news. What do we got today, Mike?
All right, from the G&G News Desk, here is the latest in Crowfall news. First of all, Kickstarter is funded. So the team has reached the $800,000 goal. Congratulations to Artcraft and the team. Now going for the stretch goals. We'll talk a little bit about those in a little while. In fact, one of the things I noticed about this particular Kickstarter, and this is definitely newsworthy, we did notice a lot of people saying that this was the first time they've ever backed a Kickstarter. In fact, I actually tweeted out from my account, retweet if this is the first time you've supported a Kickstarter, and I've had 30 retweets on that so far. So, well, Crowfall retweeted it, and that was kind of cheating because I think on their page they've backed at least 80 projects. So, taking that one out of the way, it's been quite an interesting thing. First time, a lot of first time Kickstarters. So that was really neat to see. At this stage, the Kickstarter has eclipsed over 10,000 backers. That happened today. It's climbing ever so close to that 1 million mark, and that of course takes us to the first stretch goal, which is going to be the upgraded visual effects. That includes bringing on a staff member that will be able to work specifically on visual effects, and let Eric go back to work on the character models. Of course, we know that what that gives us. That gives us hot dates for the male centaurs. So they're not as lonely anymore. So we're looking at getting the female centaurs in. In fact, today we saw an animation of the centaurs, kind of an idle animation, kind of a little bit of combat animation. It's looking really, really good. We're looking forward to seeing the new model in. Of course, the next goal after that is at 1.3 million, where it brings in caravans and mounts. So those are very important stretch goals that we do hope definitely get hit. In other news, there has been a lot of conversation between Gordon Walton and the European community about Crowfall's place over there in the EU. As a small independent company, the idea of reaching across the pond is definitely something that can be a challenge. And I encourage anybody to go to the forums. There's a great thread where Gordon has been specifically interacting with the European community and taking a lot of their ideas. In fact, I know he's at GDC this week, and I know that's one of the issues and one of the things that they're talking about is trying to find a way to make sure to include our European friends. So I think that's very refreshing to see, but that's definitely something that was newsworthy. In addition, we know that there was revealed information this week about the embargo vault, which is kind of a concept that a lot of us didn't necessarily see coming. We knew there was a way that people could maybe store items in the campaigns, but the concept of the embargo vault explained this week, where we found out players can deposit items and put them on hold until the end of the campaign. It's caused a lot of discussion in the forums, and I'm sure the conversation will continue for sure. And then finally, today, backers were given avatar images, Facebook and Twitter headers, and forum signatures that'll let them show their support for Crowfall as the Kickstarter campaign continues to move toward the stretch goals. I know a lot of us right away, I know I did, I went and changed my avatar and my Twitter account to kind of show my support to Kickstarter. I was over at mmorpg.com, and immediately I saw several people had already put that to work. So obviously we are looking forward to seeing the new visual effects and seeing the new mounts, or the female centaurs, and of course at 1.3 million the stretch goals there for the mounts and the caravans, and who knows what's next. But that is really all I have for the news for this week. Back to the show, guys. Franklin?
All right. Well, that sounds like a lot, actually. And it's amazing that we've done so much in just this past week. The engagement with the community and the devs is pretty impressive. You know, Onrez keeps slaying us with his wonderful photoshopping skills depicting everyone.
Have come along, I might say, from the old days.
Good.
Yeah. So, you know, but hey, let's get right down to the nitty gritty. So our first topic of the day is, what is your opinion on the stretch goals? You know,
I'll jump in first here. So I'll say that the 1.3 has me really engaged. The 1 million one, it was, I mean, don't get me wrong, I want the centaurs not to be lonely, and maybe that'll make them more player friendly, because they can get a little loving on their own. But my concern is, you know, adding a person always seems to me a business need or a business development need, not necessarily a stretch goal. In my mind, a stretch goal is, for no better analogy, ways to pull and cajole hype and emotion and money from the community. So Eric is, you know, seems like a great guy. Actually had some pretty good stuff. So, but another Eric is definitely not as interesting as the people already talking about, boy, I hope we get to mounts. A lot of people aren't talking, I hope we get to centaurs, lady centaurs. I hope we get to hiring another Eric. The dialogue was, boy, I hope we get to mounts. I'd love the caravan type of stuff. So I would have liked to see a few more things related to, you know, things that pull action and emotion, positive and negative, out of the community. And you know, I think the 1 million one isn't as sexy as 1.3. Maybe they meant to do it that way, but I just wish they were inverted, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You know, they definitely have needs there, and I think the way that Gordon and Todd have talked about the whole thing has been in that they seem to really know, they got a bead on exactly what they need to do the work they want to do. So that might be something that you know, the stretch goals don't have the same flair, because they already kind of know where they want to go with it. But the one thing that was interesting is Todd had talked a couple of times on the importance of the mounts and the caravans, and how that would be a huge lift later, rather than now, I guess, creating, you know, thinking about the world size and what that might mean. But to me, that sounds like so core to gameplay. I would hope they just build the world with that in mind anyway, and then, you know, try and find that money like they've talked about to do that, because just leaving it out because it didn't hit a stretch goal doesn't seem like a reasonable option, honestly, the way they were talking. And then those, you know, for gameplay and mechanics reasons, they sound really cool as well.
Don't you get the feeling that, I mean, and again, I'm certainly don't want to take away any momentum from the Kickstarter. I definitely believe in what's going on, but I kind of get the feeling that we'll probably see them anyway. I don't know why I feel that way. I feel like mounts and caravans are just such cool ideas and just so central to the game. And, you know, we know that after the Kickstarter, there is going to be continued funding. We know there's going to be most likely a store opening up on the page, and people will finally be able to use PayPal. Like, a lot of people are waiting because they can't use PayPal with Kickstarter. But sure. I'm curious if I almost feel like, okay, this is kind of something they were kind of planning on doing. I mean, we did see some artwork on it a long time ago. So, you know, as a stretch goal, my opinion is it's a great goal to see, and to get it in the core game before, you know, the end of next year would be great. But I kind of feel like we're going to see those anyway. I'm curious about, you know, hearing about things that maybe we hadn't heard about yet, or maybe some things that you know, would surprise us. You know, but that's just kind of my thought on that.
Well, I always look at the stretch goals of any game that goes on Kickstarter, and I've backed quite a few of them, is basically the project plan that's outside the initial scope, right? So they're a stretch goal to entice us to give more money, but at the same time, it's kind of their roadmap of where they're planning on going anyway, just like you just said. And keeping in mind that they've kind of set when and how they can do it based on the amount of money. So it kind of ties hand in hand with what does the community want, and they'll fund, but at the same time keeping with what their target goal is. And so when people look at and undermine the fact that, oh, female centaurs, big deal, right? It's not really that juicy of a stretch goal, but they miss the big picture that without the extra artist, which the female centaur is just the carrot for, I don't think we would be able to get to the art assets needed to make the mounts and caravans work.
Ah, good point.
That's
a very good point,
agree,
actually.
But Charles, again, I believe that's a business decision related to Artcraft being successful as a business, not necessarily tied to the community being excited and bringing their money to a Kickstarter. I mean, if you're a Subway shop and you can sell 5 subs every hour, but you can sell 7 every hour if you hire a person, it's a matter of, is it cost effective to have that extra person there for an extra 2 subs an hour? That is a business decision related to hiring staff. To me, it's just not as... I guess that's looking too far behind the curtain. I don't want to know what's on that special sauce for Artcraft to be a successful company. That's just their staffing model and the staffing ratios. To me, that's not Kickstarter material for me. That doesn't get people excited. And again, my concept, Kickstarter is excited. It's hype. It's keep pushing money. It's getting people to go from level to level to level. And to those things, not everyone thinks as deep, Chief, as you do, as in, and honestly, no, I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right that they have to have that in place. But for me, as a general person in the community, I think, sexy counts for people to shift from gold to amber and amber. You know what I mean? Those are the things that keep people to move up in their tiers, in my opinion.
Well, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, if they were to ever put something in a stretch goal that they couldn't attain regardless of how sexy it looks, it may draw in the money, but you're going to have that whiplash effect of really turning the community off to you when it's unrealistic. Now, like you said, centaurs don't seem that sexy, but you had to have a way to explain why the artist and adding them was important. And then you take it to the next step. Well, he's also needed to make the caravans work. But, like Mike said, we're going to get the caravans regardless. Do we want caravans that don't look so good but still work fine? Or do we want them to scream? And then if we go to the next step after the Kickstarter, then you're going to start adding something else in that plays off and builds to it. So it's that knife's edge, because we know communities are vicious, and you leave any room for wiggle, they're going to stab a knife in it and go, but you said, you promised, the Kickstarter did this, So I think they're doing it smart. It's not sexy in the Kickstarter marketing standpoint, but it's a safe route to go. And when they first started this, they were concerned with just 800,000. So,
Go ahead, Bill.
No, sorry, I was going to say Black Wolf in the chat mentioned, and it's true, and I was thinking the same thing. Crowfall's raised at this point more than Star Citizen did in its Kickstarter campaign. Right. But what Star Citizen managed to do is more about what James is talking about. It's about bringing the bling. They really took it, and even though the Kickstarter ended at around $6 million, we all know what happened after that. Right. But I think it was just the spin on the types of stretch goals they had that I think Crowfall can still capitalize on. But they've got some time left. But I would like to see more interactivity, maybe some snazzier stretch goals.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody saw the light bulb, because Franklin, something you just said, it was a complete light bulb for a moment to me, and apologize for jumping in. But when you said before you can create the assets for the caravans and the mounts, you got to have somebody freed up to do that, and bringing in that if bringing in another artist frees Eric up to go finish the Centaur, Eric can now go begin building assets. So this may be just simply a matter of practicality for the general development of the game. So while Andres does make a good point, I think that may be it, and until right now, it never really occurred to me. So I think that's a very, very good point indeed.
Well, yeah, and like I said, just to sum it up so we can move off to topic 2, it really comes down to you got to balance that bling to practicality to what they think they can get. And I think they were really nervous that their concept was going to sell, and the fact that we've done so well in such a short amount of time, the only thing that at this point disappoints me is they're not capitalizing on that momentum. And sure, GDC is in the way, but it seems like they should be doing more to market every day. I've seen Kickstarters that have failed in just this past week that had a lengthy post every single day with news or updates on their Kickstarter page, trying to get that carrot out there to entice you, even if it was just a story, a little bit of lore, a picture, something. I would be happier if Artcraft was working a little bit harder rather than seeming to sit back because they've already quote-unquote succeeded. Anyway, just getting my rant out of there. James can't have all the rants.
Oh, I don't have a song for your rant. I'll work on it.
Yeah, you do that. So what's our second topic?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about the Eternal Kingdoms and the Embargo Vault, and those are great things to talk about, and I know a lot of people in chat want to talk about those things. But we had something very interesting happen that I've never been in a podcast that's happened before, and this is something we've been kind of looking forward to, because normally in podcasts, we're asking the devs questions or we're asking the community questions, but we actually had a dev ask us to talk about some things, and they were, it was Thomas or Blickstev. He said, I would like to hear the Golden Glory team talk about this next topic, and so that's really what our main topic will be today. So how cool is that?
We've been called out. Gauntlet throw down.
Well, even more than that, it's just cool to really have a show script sort of set out for us in a little bit, and those are all like core to the kind of discussion we have here anyway. So I really appreciate Uncle Bob for doing that, because it's going to help us out today.
Uncle who?
Uncle Bob.
So Uncle Bob, what is our
Bob.
first
Uncle
question?
Bob, he's here.
All right, guys. I got some stuff I want you to talk about today. Okay.
Thanks, Uncle Bob. We'll
I want to hear you guys. I want to hear you guys talk about crafting. Okay, I want to hear what you guys have to say. We're building a great game here, but you guys are just so smart and interesting that I just want to hear you talk about it.
That's so cool that
you
you showed up
flatter
again
us.
2 weeks
That's
in a row.
right. How cool is that?
Wow.
How cool is that?
Nice.
The audio version of the cast is going to be going, what in the heck did he just do?
Right. Definitely loses something in iTunesableness.
I'll have to make that like the
iTunes
thumbnail.
Listeners on that one.
I want to go last because I feel like I'm going to have a lot to rant about all of your choices.
That's
Very
likely
good. Very
true.
good.
Okay.
Very true.
Okay.
So, I guess I can start off, sort of, and I don't know how we want to do this, but one of the things.
Let's mention the topic first. So basically, the question that he asked was, how do we think the relationship of the crafters in the campaigns will play out? And basically, that was it was in a thread that was called, "What is the point of an amazing coster crafting system if resources are random and impossible to export?" Which is not exactly true. It's not impossible to export.
No.
So the
Since
title is
then, they've
kinda off.
updated the whole Kickstarter page about export mechanics, but yeah, we'll get into that. Keep going.
Yeah, so basically what he did is he asked us to address the following questions in response. And Bill, I'll go ahead and let you kick off with kind of where the beginning of the conversation goes.
Yeah, cool. So, there are a laundry list of sort of questions that he posted, and they really are they are just like kind of rapid fire, and everyone ties into the previous one into the next one. So the first one on the list was in terms of how crafters might work for their guild and how they would produce equipment. Do the crafters charge people in their guild?
Yes.
Or
Wait, I'm
faction?
sorry. What? No,
You said you were
Sorry,
gonna wait.
Finish it. Sorry, you finish your thought. Sorry,
You're
I got
gonna wait.
distracted.
You're last. I'm gonna mute you.
Charging for
Sorry.
stuff.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Do the crafters charge people in their guild or faction for equipment that they make? And that's really interesting. I think we might have even touched on this in the first week or second week show. If from one aspect of it, I can see it. If crafters really become really skilled and sought after, that really makes them valuable. Would the New England Patriots let Tom Brady play for the Packers? No, they would want to keep that resource all to themselves. So it really does, with the apparent weight of the economy and crafting here. It seems that idea might be in play. That a guild would want to really hoard the crafters they have for what they can do. Which puts an interesting spin on the crafter and what they want to achieve as a merchant and who they can sell to. Same thing with faction. As far as what we know with the campaigns right now, we don't know for sure, but I think the factions you join are on a campaign-by-campaign basis. So you could end up on a faction that you maybe sold another, a really good item to someone else earlier, and then all of a sudden they're your enemy and they're beating you down with your own sword. So, there's a lot of interesting things there. So, but in terms of, do the crafters charge people in their guild? I'd say no, because they're going to be helping, assuming, securing the resource, the points of interest and all that. But I know that's probably bothering James.
I think James will like my answer. So.
And I think for the faction type of setting, then yes, I think they do. But again, I think there's other dynamics, shockingly, other than commerce, that are at play here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the way I see it is this, typically in a guild, if I'm crafting something, which I normally wasn't the guy doing the crafting, but if I was the guild crafter, I would just simply normally say, if you bring me the mats, I'll make it for free. But that's because I was able to supplement my income with doing quests and dungeons and other PvE content. When I don't have that option, when really my job is to make stuff for my guild because they're going to constantly need it all the time, how am I going to grow? How am I going to supplement my own vault, my own personal kingdom? So I think personally that as a crafter, I will probably want a little extra over the top, even from my own guild members.
That's the spirit.
So before we let James in here, I want my opinion. So I think it comes down to how the system's going to work. And what I mean is because resources are based on export, and we had the big thread about how we're going to have these control points and the banks and all that stuff. If everything is personal inventory and there's no potential guild vault to export goods, then I think the crafter has to charge. Or trade for the materials.
Right.
Because it's a person-to-person trade. So I don't consider trading for materials necessarily a cost, but if you bring me materials and you don't have necessarily all the right materials to make the item you want, then I'm going to charge you the difference, and it may be a different material. But there is going to be, my time is valuable, and James, I'm sure, is going to go right down this line. So there needs to be some kind of understanding of cost to time to materials. Now, if the export has the ability for a guild to deposit into a guild bank that gets exported upon a win, and any crafter can withdraw from that in the EK to make items, then I say no, there's not a cost, because then every crafter in the guild can jointly craft and prepare for the next campaigns. It really comes down to the system. Rant away, James.
Okay. First of all, I completely agree with Chief on the guild side. We know so little about it that the concept of being a guild crafter is an unknown right now. But here's my analogy. I'm a crafter. Mike's a Gankadin, and he's busy out killing people, and he's looting them, right? So he's looting stuff, and I'm crafting. I'm doing stuff. He's not going to give me everything he loots for a sword, so he has profit in his effort. If I take everything he gives me and I craft a sword, other than a skill up point, but we don't really have those, active, passive, or whatever, what is my lift for his activity? He's doing his activity, and he's, like people say, one of the guys in the other one says, I used to farm the farmers. That's how I used to get my ore. And I'm like, no, that's a smart move. But even that is you're gaining for your own inventory. You're never 100%, you know what I mean? You're always gaining for your activity, yet a crafter's supposed to be a zero sum. It just, it'll never work. It'll never long-term work. Second of all, we have, when we look at the different levels of the worlds. So I am really worried and very excited about the rules and regs of guilds, because we talked about this in our chat today. Can the same guild members be of different factions? And so can somehow Mike and I be in the same guild, but we end up in a faction battle and we're on opposite sides? If I think Mike's going to win, I'll let him kill me and have him take all my stuff back to the Eternal Kingdoms.
Yep.
Then he can.
We got it planned out already.
Then he can just give me his stuff, and I will craft
fix that in design.
Absolutely, Mike's a winner. He gets 100%.
I'll take one for the team.
Loser. Oh, Mike ganked me. Here's all of my ore and all of my stuff.
Wait a minute, James. Did we agree that I was going to give you anything? Because I don't remember.
Pretty sure that's the markup.
I don't remember that.
It was a small print. You didn't read down far enough.
Yeah, that's it. So, but back to the first question is, are they going to charge? I think they're going to have to charge, but the profit margin is going to change. It could be more, give me one extra piece of ore, give me one extra piece of leather, so at least I can be accumulating on my effort while you're out accumulating your effort. On faction, damn straight you're going to charge. These aren't my guild members. These are just people who happen at that moment in time to be aligned with me. So, I would suspect that, they're going to charge. And I expect charging in the Eternal Kingdom, if they're not a guild member, strike that. If they're not a guild member you like, you may charge them more in the Eternal Kingdom, because resources for the first X amount of time is going to be even a high-end commodity in the Eternal Kingdom. So,
right.
Well, and there's one more thought, because the Eternal Kingdom, you have the system of deeding land or giving you a place to spot. So if you are a indeed full-time crafter, having tax-free land from your guild might be a good system of payment. Just a food for thought as we move on to the next question. But, there's different ways to quote-unquote call profit for your effort that may not necessarily be in materials or even gold, if there is such a thing.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely.
What's our next question?
All right,
wise
Bill,
one.
Bill, you did such a good job reading the first one. Go for it, buddy.
If I can do anything, it's read. So here
That's
I go.
right.
All right.
Well done. Nailed it.
All right. So this is a good one. Do crafters load up an armory with equipment for their team, and the armory can be pulled from? So, in other words, however the team is defined, is that a guild? Is that a faction? Maybe he dropped a hint on there. What is a team anyway in Crowfall? But so how's a crafter working? At this is this is part of the discussion, I think, in that thread as well. The idea that at what point does a crafter, if ever, lay down his hammer and pick up a sword? Should they always be busy doing crafting things? And this kind of ties into that. Yeah, my feeling is yes. I don't think there's any strategic point where you can say it's time for James to pick up a sword and help us fight things. Like, his skill and the way he spec'd his character and everything should only mean one thing. He has to work harder at crafting, whether that's stocking an armory full of things that his team can come get during a campaign or during a particular battle, or whether that's even repairing a wall that somebody just broke through. He shouldn't be fighting whatever came through it. He should be there repairing it. So that's how I see crafters working, constantly busy doing crafting things, even during battle.
Yeah. And, it's the whole, there are all kinds of types of groups in a city that can go on strike, but as soon as the garbage men go on strike, the whole city stops. Like, there are certain things that have to happen for things to work, and as soon as you stop crafting, you just guaranteed your team's going to run out of equipment. You just absolutely guaranteed you're going to lose, because now all of a sudden you don't have the gear you need, because you're going to be losing it. It's going to be breaking. It's going to be breaking down. People are, it's going to happen. People will need it. So no, you shouldn't stop crafting. The only example I had was, for example, in a pinch. Okay, so they just breached where I'm crafting. I better at least know how to poke something with a sword to help kill who is ever about to kill me. But other than just that, it's the same thing. Like, if I'm not a crafter, then I shouldn't be expected to put down my sword and go craft unless all the crafters are dead. And okay, I know how to make a wooden. I can make a wooden sword. Let me go make one right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are the only circumstances I can see. And as far as do we load up the armory? What the heck is an armory? I don't even know what an armory is. I didn't even know he had armories until I saw this question.
Hey, he put the question out there. We have to
I
speculate.
know. So you load up an armory, I guess. But here's my question about the armory. How do you transfer stuff to it? Is it something that you build that can be broken? Can the enemies loot your armory? Like, hey guys, look at all that gear in there.
Yeah.
That adds something else I never knew was there. So that question boggles my mind. And but get ready to be boggled. We got 5 more questions yet, but still, right there. What the heck is an armory? Where is it? How do you build one? Is that the point of building up a stronghold so you can have an armory, so you can start stocking? So all of a sudden, they think they've got us pinned in the corner. All of a sudden, they don't realize we've got a fully equipped armory and all kinds of defenses, and you dudes thinking you're going to attack us are all about to die. So I don't know.
No.
Yeah, because it's interesting, because if the armory is just an EK and it's getting ready for campaigns, it's kind of trivialized, because depending upon the campaign rules, you really can't take much with you. But like you said, if it's in the field, in the campaign, when do you load it up? When do you craft it? And how controlled can it be? Because, the greatest strategy in EVE is to infiltrate the corporation of your enemy and then steal all their stuff.
Right.
Can we do the same thing here, right?
Right, and the ability to pull out of the armory without paying for it is a question, because if you can build up an armory, the first question then becomes an issue. If I'm charging people to make gear, how am I going to do that if I'm just putting stuff into an armory that all of a sudden, instead of grabbing something from OnRes, I'm just grabbing something from this box? So I think the concept of armory can take away from the marketing of an individual crafter, or seeking that crafter out by name. So the armory concept, I'm not quite sure. For materials, maybe, but for gear, no.
Yeah, because it really comes down to the thing that we don't know about, how death mechanics work and respawn in a campaign. Well, if you're a lousy player and you're pulling out a weapon every 10 minutes because you keep dying, now the rest of your team has nothing, right? Because they keep losing it to the enemy.
Games,
so
Franklin?
James, don't pick up a sword.
Sorry, Mike. Bill used all the swords. So can you pick up this big rock?
How did he go through 42 swords?
And hit the guys with it.
Right.
You've got active, passive skills in that, right?
I've got a bow staff. That is a broom. No, it's a bow staff. Really, go.
Go. I'll sweep them out of here.
So I've got 2 analogies. So one, an observer to a battle faces all the risks of the battle of an active participant without any of the benefits. So if I'm in a caravan and I'm a crafter and the caravan's attacked, then the crafter needs to at least have an effort of self-preservation, because I'm carrying probably better stuff than anyone else that I've hired to walk me around.
Right.
So I'm going to have some skill sets, something around to, protect myself, or at least be able to run away effectively. 2, I saw people in chat, and I'd like to address that, is if the game is built in a way that, like they say, that crafters matter, if you have all these awesome PvP guys out there and they're slaying this and they're slaying that, well, your durability goes down, your armor goes down, everything's going down. You may win 3 battles and run out of equipment.
Right.
So if the crafters are doing their work, well, while you're protecting the ore, while you're protecting the mine, I've got to mine in that ore mine while under fire, get the ore, make you a new sword, get you a new sword so you can kill the 4th wave of people. So the concept of, well, the crafters shouldn't have it too easy. It shouldn't be a win-win. No. I think if it's done right, the crafters should be busting their hump just like the people in the front line. Because again, the ore's not going to come out of the mine by itself, and I can't stop mining to push back the wave of people coming, right? Because that's wasted time in the mine. We may not have this mine for another 2 hours. So your crafters need to be gathering, crafting, pushing items to the front, repairing things as it goes, as we're protecting this point of interest for as long as we have it. So the crafters are just as active, in my opinion, I hope, in every battle. They're just not shooting an arrow or swinging a sword. Yep. They're just swinging a hammer and, swinging a pickaxe.
Well, until they're either about to die or they need to run away so they can come back and mine some more.
Yeah, I
Burrow.
think there
I'm
should
gonna
be
burrow.
Yeah, burrow. There should definitely be some combat. I mean, skills like.
Yeah.
But for a crafter, they would be wise to take up things like mitigation, defense, and escape.
Absolutely.
You know, not offensive waste, that kind of thing.
Where did
Exactly.
James go? Yes.
Well, and that leads into the next part of the question. Question 3 was, how much time do we spend on building and reinforcing structures? So, like James was just talking about, if you're at the front line and you're trying to feed up weapons and equipment, or you're a structure crafter and somebody punches a hole in the wall, are you there with the boards to try and block the hole so we don't get swarmed? That type of stuff is a whole different type of crafting skill that's probably going to be very essential to this. Castles, keeps, the mine itself, maybe we have to build barricades so we can hold the mine longer so James can finish mining the place out. There's different types of crafts besides the equipment that I think constantly get overlooked as a potential need. I mean, there's been hints at eating, staying warm. Are we going to have specialists in just keeping fires in certain places so people don't freeze to death?
I'll be Chef Mike.
Oh my God, yeah.
But that could be a real consideration. Is someone supplying fuel to keep fire so you don't freeze to death while defending the keep, so we can mine the ore, so we can make equipment, so we can go out and attack somebody else's control point? I mean, a lot of unanswered questions here, but I think the quintessential part of that is, whatever your crafting specialty is, you better do it until it's time to just defend your own life.
No, I agree. I think that it's, teams, when you start a battle, you get what you go out there. I mean, do you pick your teams? Sometimes guild versus guild, sometimes you don't. And, there are going to be times when you go, okay, we need to repair this wall, and everyone looks at each other and go, well, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Oh, I guess I had to do it. I'm just repairing the wall. So how much time should be spent repairing walls? First of all, I don't, you have to balance. It has to take a little while. Otherwise, somebody could just, they broke it, repaired it, broke it, repaired it, broke it, repaired it, haha, right? And it just turns into this silly, comical, cute, yakety sax back and forth. So it has to take some time and some resources to repair. Personally, I just don't see somebody standing there for hours on end repairing a wall. It just doesn't seem very fun to me.
No.
So it has to take long enough where you can't just patch up a hole instantly, but it can't be so long that that it's not fun. And I think it can't be so specialized that it's going to be hard to find someone that can do it. I think there are some people that'll be able to do it more effectively, but that's one of those things where you kind of going to need to have somebody around that can do this.
Well, also, how are those walls repaired? Are they,
Right.
do you come with the resources? What resources do you come with? It's a wall, so it takes stone, but what kind of stone? What quality of stone are you bringing? Does that matter? Does that come into play? To some extent, it might be just like a capture and hold point. Like, okay, anybody who can gather around and the more players who get there could repair the wall quicker as well. But we just don't know. But there's a lot of cool things they could do there.
And I thought the Crow and I thought the cast in front of us had a really good point is, what is it costing to put the hole in the wall? The moment that the ratio of effort to cost to repair is greatly overshadowed by the effort and cost and damage to make the hole, then people are going to find some other way, it's not going to be fiscally worth it to try to put one stone back if they're taking 6 out at a time, and it costs me time and effort to create one good stone, and they're taking out 8 stones in the same amount of time. So that's really going to be a tough balancing act, I think, in my opinion.
Well, and Dark Age of Camelot had a pretty good system for this to call in another game. I mean, if I wanted to go out and harass the other realms, I could go out and I could plink at a tower door, and it might take me an hour by myself to knock down the door. If you bring a whole army with you, you could take that door down in 10 minutes. If you brought a catapult, now it's down to 5 minutes. So I think it's going to be a very similar thing here in Crowfall. The number of people, the tools you bring, is going to determine how long it takes down or to rebuild whatever you have to work on. And I think that is what's going to help control the strategy of the game, because at the core, Crowfall is a strategy game. I don't want to see battles that take 2 minutes to take over a keep. I want to see hour battles or longer.
It's gotta be epic. It's gotta
because
be epic.
it takes you that much time to get the right piece of equipment to knock a hole in the wall. Yeah, okay, they showed the guy throwing a hammer and he knocked a hole through the wall. I hope it's not that easy. If it's that
you
easy...
You can see other projectiles hitting it first, though.
Yeah,
so.
it invalidates the whole point of having a wall in the first place if he can knock it down in one hit. You know.
I love what Sato just put in chat. He said, it'd be neat to see you to be able to make walls and fortifications out of lesser than materials that normally aren't used. You know, like attrition through resources. Like, okay, we're all out of rock. What do we use? Anybody chewing gum?
Oh, wait, let me hit the latrine. I have a minor in cob architecture, so I can get some straw, and I can pull some cow dung and a little bit of clay. I can make a cob structure wall to protect us.
Hey, Spartacus, we just stack up the enemy's bodies. We got a wall.
Nice.
We plug our walls with your corpses. Next.
Bring on!
Moving on. There you go.
Ugh. That's funny. So, where do we leave off? Let's see here.
Next question.
Number 4.
James, you want to lead with this one?
Yes. How much time do they spend in hostile territory looking for resources and materials? And my thing is, again, there's no way to tell yet. It's about return on effort. If there are other points of interest that gain more points for the overall victory faster, well, then those are the point of interests that more than likely are going to be battled over, because it seems already that winning is far more important than necessarily generic gathering. If you win, you get it all. If you lose, you don't. At least we're talking dregs. So points of interest on how they contribute to your overall win, I think, is going to directly impact how much time you spend in hostile territory just looking for resources and materials. Because, I mean, if you can win by holding these 4 towers, then why even waste your time with maybe a few people out gathering resources? You want to hold these towers, you can collect off their dead bodies and their carcasses, maybe gold teeth, you know, I don't know how you get value out of that, and you win, then you get whatever you get. So I think it's, in my opinion, I don't know enough yet from a concept of return on effort on gathering resources and other points of interest related to resources versus the overall win in a campaign.
So I look at this a little bit differently, I guess, because when I read that question or heard it, enemy territory or hostile territory, well, this assumes you didn't get control of the territory in the first place. The way I understand campaigns, everybody starts on a neutral footing, and you got to go out and capture the territory. So a smart strategist is not going to let it become hostile territory in the first place, and you're going to get those resources as quickly as possible. Now, if somebody comes and takes your resource node, now you have to take it back, and it's hostile territory, and you're trying to gather. Unless the assumption is you're trying to sneak in and get resources from somebody that hasn't controlled the point yet. Well, that's a whole different discussion, because now you have the problem of, well, how much realistically can you get by yourself? You're not going out there with a cart by yourself, because you're just going to get ganked more than likely. You need help to get the resources out. So it really comes down to, how do you define hostile territory, and how do you plan your strategy of gathering those resources? So
yeah, I was thinking of it the same way. Like, what is hostile territory? Does that mean necessarily enemy-controlled points, resource points, or maybe that armory that's fully stocked we learned about earlier? Or is it, there are sort of, there are mobs out there, right, too? So maybe there's going to be situations where hostile territory means you have to go into the lair of a really strong creature that could have a cache for you too. So that, I think all those are valid strategies, and that's what's neat about it. I think any team could say, like, this is how we play. We don't worry about these points resources. We go after the enemy's currently held positions only, and that's how we supply our resource chain. But I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of how I looked at it. Like, the hostile territory could mean many things.
Yeah.
Well, hostile territory, so Did you guys see the map in the animation in the video where it showed the red and the blue? It was kind of an animation where you saw, they were talking about a strategy game, and you saw the red moving up the map this way, and you saw the blue moving down the map this way. And so maybe there are mechanics in the game and things that we're not aware of that happen once you've achieved and taken over certain points of interest. Will points of interest be captured all spread around, or is there going to be an order in which you're going to want to capture these? I think that's a good question. But if there is such thing as hostile territory, there must be a way to know you're probably in hostile territory. So that could be around resources that the enemy captures. So how much time should people spend in hostile territory? I think as much as they need to. I think in the design of the game, I think that it does have to be balanced, because there are players that aren't either going to be skilled enough yet, or not quite ready to, or equipped to go out and be those scouts that go out first, or those people that go around gathering first. You might... What's that?
Yeah.
What?
That's me.
What I missed?
The scout rushing out ahead. That's me.
Yeah. Well, then you're going to be sniping people. I can tell it already. I saw your blunderbuss on Twitter. I know what you're packing, buddy.
Well, I'm gonna pack a Gunishin in my antlers too, so he can guard my backside.
That's right. So, you just fling him out there.
Well, he's got his guns. He points to the back, right?
Absolutely. So ultimately, to me, I do think there needs to be something that keeps you wanting to go into hostile territory, to keep people from turtling. So I do think that that resource-wise, there should be a good amount of time for some of your team to need to go to the other side.
Yeah.
Well, and that leads us into the next part of the question is, will you be obligated to help find those resources and materials, and maybe even gather them if you have the time? And I think this comes down to, it's going to be team strategy. Because I think when you come into a campaign, what materials you're going to gather, what equipment you need to build and buy, etc., to get you going may change with each one. So maybe your team comes in and you can bring in so much ore this time, but you're really short on wood, and this assumes that there's the different things. So now your entire focus for the team for the first little bit is just gather some wood resources, and you're not worried about the ore, So, but you still want somebody to go out and find where those ores are when it's time. So, it comes back to that strategy question. What does your team need? Who's on the team? What are they capable of? And what is really the priority at the time? And it also comes down to, which we don't even want to touch on in this show, what's the communication capability of team members?
Just going to go there.
Oh, yes.
So,
and also how well your team is set up.
Yes.
Let's say that you guys hit the gold mine. Our team, we got out there, and right during spring, we went out there and we were set up perfectly. We've got visual superiority. We've got resource superiority. Maybe you don't need to then. If you were able to find the jackpot of resources, now you're set in a position, we're just going to build an army, and then we're just going to go decimate them. So that's possible too. But if you're resource low at the beginning, or maybe you didn't have enough people go out and find, you may need to go to the enemy and steal. The Robin Hood thing. I'm gonna have to invade their city to go steal from the rich so I can give to the poor people on my team.
Or at least wait until you see their cart leave the mine, knowing that they've already got a full load, and then you pounce.
There you go.
Take the cart and go.
Yeah.
So I would say a couple things. One, there's a huge difference so far in points of interest like mines, let's say, versus are there going to be secondary nodes or something like that that are personal gathering points versus I need a caravan to go. So if I need a team to take me to this mine, then of course I need to share everything I've got. But if I'm a scout and I'm willing to take the risk out there and I'm willing to look and be on the front lines and I see a mine there, then I should be able to get it. So again, we don't know enough, in my opinion, yet to think of, will they be to help them find resources and materials. We don't know if it takes multiple people to get to only, does it take 5 people to trigger a mine to be able to getting mine out of it? Or can I walk past and go, hey, there is some ore on the bottom of this creek. It's going to be low grade, and my ratio of quality is never going to be like a high-end mine, but that's something I can do myself. So will we have the scouts out in the front looking for visual superiority, etc.? My second question is, if Blickstav and team want to be extra evil, I would say make all points of interests resource poor before they can be resource gained. So give us the ability to have a couple of mines, a couple of trees, whatever. So when I go to the lumber mill, it's going to take X amount of lumber to repair the lumber mill for me to get quality lumber out. So if you didn't bring people with you to establish this lumber mill back to working to get the value, then the entire team's not going to get value out of it. Same with the mine. You know what I mean? So, prime the pump of the points of interests with the individual effort so that we all gain. Back to Lake. I'm a huge fan. I think it is kind of like war. There is this concept of supply trains, but you know what? We're not all in the same army. So a campaign is made up of smaller guilds and smaller groups. Each of those have their own individual goals and needs to justify them being there in the campaign. So I may support a team next to me because we're on the same campaign team, but they're not in my day-to-day. They're not helping me get stuff back from the Eternal Kingdom, and they haven't helped me actively or passively skill my points. So me charging them or not giving them ore but giving these guys ore, that's still my personal choice because we're not all in the same army. We're a loosely grabbed group of people doing the same activity.
Yeah, and to carry that thought, it's the same thing with defense points. They've said that you're going to go in and you're going to find derelict keeps, derelict towers. Maybe they're in pristine condition. More than likely they're not. You're going to come across something that's got a hole in it. So before it can even be a defendable camp, you got to plug the hole and make it a base. You can't claim it until you've got so many people or so much repairs are done to it. So that's an excellent point that I hadn't even thought about yet. Good job, James. But we need to keep rolling on here.
Yes.
How to impress upon dedicated crafters and campaigns that they will fill a valid role? I think we've already really covered this pretty well earlier on, but is there anybody got any other thoughts on this particular one?
Just one. I just had one other one related to the concept of quartermaster. Quartermaster, you actually have more of a vested interest. And you need to be able to have great communication skills to be able to prioritize items. If I'm a merchant, I have 12 swords and I have 20 people that need swords. All I see is profit.
Hey, you buy swords?
Yeah. Oh, I've only the less swords I have, the more the price go up. The difference of a quartermaster is understanding, well, Franklin's gone through 3 swords, Bill's gone through 1. They both need a sword. Where's my best return on investment of giving someone a sword?
Bill.
So there's a huge difference in my opinion, and I've never seen it done in an active player role as a quartermaster. So I think that could be really interesting to play.
Well, that's an awesome mechanic too. If that was a built-in capacity to where you could see those kind of statistics, if it was actually a quartermaster type situation where you have people pulling resources from multiple guilds, multiple teams, and then this guy walks up and like, well, who are you? And, well, I need a weapon. Well, what did you bring? Well, somehow to see what they participated in and if they earned something. So,
hey, Bill, have you ever in any of your guild activities ever been the role of quartermaster, whether you wanted it or not?
I'm going to say yes. Yes, that's something that just I think comes along with the territory just by naturally how you step up to certain roles in the guild. It just kind of happens. I'm just looking at that question, and just trying to think about a little bit more deeply. How to impress upon the dedicated crafters, like how to let the crafters know. And again, this goes back to how are crafters used? Are they on your team? Are they just out there in the world? Right. What's going to let them know what they can do, or how their role differs from just like you said, crafting a weapon. What can they do to how can the game let them know that what their role is more important than it may seem on the surface, or can be more important?
Yeah, I think that comes down to one, it goes back to the communication, but two, on how the actual recipes work. What can they craft? How can they make them special and stand out to where they can communicate, you want me to really give you that X item. I really need this resource. Somebody needs to help me go find it. because I'm not the harvester. I only have the skill in the making the final product or processing the resource, because you have those that mine. Let's take ore, for example. Then you have to take it to a foundry and melt it down into bars, and then you got to give it to your weaponsmith to turn it into a sword. You know, it really comes down to how do you validate all those different roles without making everybody feel disjointed. And it's a really tough thing unless you say someone can do from point A to point C. Can they harvest, can they process, and can they make all as one single role? Mm-hmm. That changes the game dynamically from those are specialized skills in how you communicate the need and share between. So, because not only are you making swords, now you might need to make a pick, whatever. So, anyway.
I don't have anything to add to that. I think the idea is finding somebody that understands. Okay, so my team needs me, and I need to do more than just be a merchant here. I need to be part of leading the team to victory, because I ultimately, for could be selfish reasons, I want to take back more stuff. But it'll be interesting that if somebody will altruistically stand up and say, yes, I'm gonna serve the team, or I think the teams that do have more people that do it for the good of the team are going to be more successful, because crafting is going to be, it's hand in hand. It don't matter how good you are at swinging a sword. If you don't have a sword, what are you going to swing? So I'm with you guys on that.
Cool. Do we want to touch on the last one just a little bit, so we can? I know we're getting wrapping up to now. We still want to make a question or two.
Yeah, I think we can touch on that quickly, because it kind of ties into the whole quartermaster thing. So the final question is a merchant something that exists in EK and not in campaigns? So,
well, that's related to the last one. So
the
idea of a merchant is, hello, you buy sword. If you're in a war, are you really going to want a bunch of salesmen? Am I going to want to see chat if there is one spammed with, I'm selling da 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 da, or are you going to want people directly engaged in the battle? Okay, guys, we need 15 of this and 20 of this, whatever. You got it, boom, and everybody jumps in. I just in the fog of war, I don't know if you're going to want merchants hanging around. I think you may need more of a quartermaster type individual.
Sure.
Well, yeah. Go ahead, Franklin.
Well, I was going to say, in the concept of the quartermaster, would you make it like if you control a certain type of property, say you do establish control on a keep, and for a certain amount of time, you're able to summon an NPC that's now the quartermaster. So your crafters can dump their gear onto the quartermaster to exchange. It's like a temporary auction house, because if you lose control of the keep, you lose control of the vendor, but a way to where people can still be out crafting or fighting, but still be able to exchange goods with other people on their team. It might potentially work, because then you don't have to have a player stand there and play the quartermaster when there might not be anybody around that needs anything. It really depends on how they allow that type of system to potentially be there. I do not want an auction house. I don't want some kind of global market system. But at the same time, you don't want to tie somebody down that feels like, well, I just have to stand here and hope somebody comes to buy a sword to support the team as the quartermaster. So, anyway, that's my thought on that.
Yeah, I don't really have anything much to add to that, but yeah, some of it will do. Campaigns are, like we know right now, anywhere from 3 months and up, maybe. So, what tactics will there be? Will there be such a thing as a guild building a keep that in a campaign that stocks it with merchants, that could be killed and looted, of course, but just how that all really kind of comes into play. And I really, honestly, the thing that I just want to learn more about the Eternal Kingdoms, because there's so much that
gray. It's kind of gray and foggy right now, and so how when you look at something. You know those stupid dot things back in the 80s where you'd stare and then all of a sudden your eye go lazy and then you'd see a picture of it? I've been staring at the Eternal Kingdoms trying to relax my eyes, and the dots have not shown me anything yet. It's just a big wall of dots.
The magic picture.
I look like this and I look like this, and nothing's coming out. No dolphins or nothing, just dots.
Yeah, I think the guys at Artcraft have said a lot about it, but I don't know if a lot of it has resonated. Maybe they think they've said a lot more, and it's understood and clear because they've got more of the design, of course, in their own vision. But I think for a lot of the community, that's something that really could stand for some fleshing out.
Agreed. It's kind of like reading the pilot's manual, but you really don't understand flying until you're in the cockpit and you can see it fly. So I think we've got a lot of words, but I think a lot of us aren't really making the picture yet. It's really kind of hard to put together at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're at our hour. Do we want to take time for this?
Sure.
We do.
Yeah. Let's do this. Let's do this question. This
All
was
right, read
from
it, Mike.
this was from the Crush the Throne forums. We actually have a running thread over at crushthethrone.com where people can come in and ask questions. It's a great community-run web community. And this question was by somebody in the forums who went by the name of Joe. And this is the question that he asked. He said, "Unfortunately, life has made me a casual MMO gamer. How do you guys think that play style will fit in this game? Can a casual player still play a part in this game mechanics? It seems to be to be successful in these campaigns, large guilds and hardcore players will prosper, and unfortunately, I just can't be that type of player anymore. Maybe my initial impressions are not correct, and you guys can help me see how a casual player will fit. Still waiting to back what looks like a great game, and your answers might help. Thanks." So what you got is a guy who, for real life, can't play all the time. For whatever reason, he can't be in a big guild, can't commit to too many things. So, I mean, what's your opinion on the casuals here? What do you think? Or what he defines himself as a casual, I should say.
Yeah, and that's a big thing too. Like we talked about earlier in chat. I think how is casual defined, but I think Crowfall presents itself as a hardcore game, maybe because it's PvP mostly oriented. There's all those scary loot rules like losing items and all that kind of stuff. So that might be why it's coming across that way. So in this particular case, casual could mean, we know the campaigns have a certain length. Does it matter? Like what can you contribute or what can you get out of it if you only play one night a week? Campaign will still be there, just like any other sort of MMO world. Can you get anything out of it? Because just the nature of the campaigns, you'll be able to, as far as we know, maybe leave and go to your Eternal Kingdom and come back. But what real tangible progress can you make in an evening, if any, that you can sort of take back with you? And I think the other thing is the idea that there's not just time. It's more of a dedication thing. Like how much time as a casual player do you want to put into doing things other than playing the game, which is usually ends up solo is kind of like the default position. It's really easy to do. You play a game solo, you go in there, do what you can do. It takes an extra bit of dedication to say, all right, I'm going to play with some friends or some other people, but to do this right, we're going to have to spend time and dedication planning and working together, and some of that you can consider it overhead of playing the meta games. Like, yeah, you can play with other people, there's going to be some overhead to the time you spend, and maybe that's the level of dedication. I do hope that Crowfall can find a way to let, because a lot of us, at times, especially if not all the time, we fall into that same description of casual or something. We just don't have the same kind of time we used to. I'm big saying that I don't think a game should necessarily change to fit the lifestyle of somebody who can't play it the way it was designed. So, but on the other hand, I do hope that and it sounds like, just the nature of how these campaigns could work. It sounds like a player could contribute, even in a solo way, to the outcome, even if that's only playing once or twice a week. So I'm hoping that the guys figure something out for those types of players.
Yeah, there's going to be a threshold. What percentage, what time, how involved, how engaged, how many encounters were they involved in, how many resources did they dig up. Now, as far as somebody who can't log in every night, that's one of the great things about the passive skill system, because with the passive skill system, you don't have to be logged in to skill up all the time. So if you only have a little bit of time, that's okay. If you get in there, an hour every couple days or whatever, keep your passive skills going, you can still be effective. You don't have to be playing, you're not grinding up to level 80 or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you got to look at this. I see that actually the mechanic of campaigns really plays well into the casual, because you can come in for your hour or two that you're going to play once a week, and I think you can be extremely effective depending upon how you're willing to communicate. You show up in the campaign, you get to the keep, you find out what is the strategy of the day, and you join in a raid. You join in the harvesting of some resources at a control point, whatever it happens to be. Maybe the only thing it is it's going to be a army run to the, what did they call the towers for depositing goods?
Summoning circles.
The summoning circle. So maybe there's a raid going on to a summoning circle, and you happen to have some stuff in your inventory that you would love to deposit on the off chance that we win, and you were only there for an hour. Okay, so what? Your level of effort got you X amount of goods. You got it stored in the vault on a successful raid. You only played for an hour. You are just as effective had you been there playing every day for hours on hours. Your amount of take may be less, but it equates to your level of effort, right? So I think it goes down to the passive training, what you want to accomplish, and where you get your enjoyment. I mean, you only want to do a couple of skirmishes to take a keep, you're there. You know, it just depends what's going on.
Quick thought on that, just because it just popped, and maybe I'm slow, which is true. But in terms of thinking about the rewards you get from these campaigns, do we know, are they only things that you garner from doing things, or is there such a thing as a campaign reward for everyone who has participated?
Non-specifics, yeah.
I don't think we've heard yet.
So I would just add on this question just a really simple thought. Can Crowfall make a game that's fun to play in 15-minute sections, 30-minute sections, and hour-long sections? Because unlike logging into old school WoW and running out to the crossroads and hoping to get in a huge PvP battle and there's no one else around, the format of campaigns, on the other hand, is, you know, maybe there's not a great campaign. Well, then go one world back and find whichever one's there, or one world back and find one there. Hopefully with the format, you should be able to find something actively engagement. If you have very limited time, you will need to schedule your time wisely. You will need to find the right campaign with the right amount of activity at that moment in time for you to get the best bang for the minutes you have to play. But at least you're going to have multiple choices. You know, I mean, it's like logging in at the off time of WoW and looking for raid has nobody but mages and warlocks. And are you going to tank? No. Are you going to tank? Who's going to heal? You know, so at least hopefully in Crowfall, the format is you should be able to drop yourself in, find the right cycle, right campaign, and get yourself 30, 40, 50 minutes of fun playtime. And that's what I'm hoping that a lot of the casual players will play. I'm not a casual player, but there's no guarantee that, you know, based on other games, will I be hardcore MMO or hardcore for one specific game. So being able to construct and compress my game time based on my schedules, whatever, I may need to find out, well, I've only got 60 minutes to play these 3 days. God, I hope I can get the right place to drop into and get some good activity.
Well, and you make a very good point, because if I'm a casual player and I don't have a whole lot of time to play, I think I would be looking for those campaigns that my time to play is the dead time of the campaign. So I can capitalize on my harvesting and my scouting and worry less about being ganked. You know, if you're not going to want to be in massive PvP battles, then find a campaign that syncs up with your time to the availability, because a solo player can get away with a lot if it's the downtime of the campaign. So.
Right. And the other piece of the contribution is, how do you combat the AFK player that's in the world all the time and somebody who only plays an hour a week? You know, there has to be a way to not reward that player for doing nothing all week. So, I mean, it's something that's going to be a design issue that will have to be tackled, that I'm sure, you know, knowing the pedigree of the folks that are making this game, I'm sure that they've got a good beat on that. And we'll be working on avoiding those type of exploits and things like that. So at this point, guys, I think it's a good time to end this week's discussion. What a fun show. We do appreciate Joe, by the way, for the question on the Crush the Throne forums. Any of you have any questions or anything, topics, feel free to tweet them at us. If it's more than 140 characters, won't fit on Twitter, head over to crushtethrone.com, toss a question in our forum section. We'd love to address that on our next show. For our host this week, oh, by the way, before that, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Golden Glory PC. And also on Facebook, we've got a Facebook page at Golden Glory Podcast. All of our episodes are available on iTunes shortly after broadcast and on our website at goldenglorypodcast.com. And for our hosts, let's go ahead and talk about how people can find us. Bill, how can people find you on the interweb, sir?
I am currently at real_lethality at Twitter. And pretty soon there will be more things. This week, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be launching a new project, so look out for that.
Nice.
Keep an eye on that. Exciting stuff there. And James, how can people find you, sir?
Well, I'm, again, like I always say, I'm best in 140 characters or less. So you can find me at Anhrez, ANHREZ, out at Twitter. I stalk the forums of both Crowfall and Crush the Throne. And yeah, I'm always happy to trade ideas and concepts. So please send me a like, send me a question. I'd love to talk out stuff with you.
Very good. Of course, we do have the man that's pushing the buttons behind the scene, the man that keeps this show running, Chief Sarkhan. How can people find you, good sir? And he's typing stuff into chat, I think.
Oops. Oh, I was muted.
Well, you've got those big keys. He's got keys that sound like hammers hitting bricks. So
yeah,
he wisely mutes.
When I type, it sounds like an earthquake.
Boom, boom, boom.
So I am Chief Sarkhan. You can find me at Twitter at Chief_Sarkhan. In fact, all social media sites will be Chief_Sarkhan or Chief Sarkhan, all one word, depending upon the site. I am all over the place. I'm also starting a blog, the MMO Chief, that is slowly in development and will change frequently as my winds change.
Really good. It's looking really good. And of course, yeah, good stuff there. Read Chief's guides. He's one of the smartest people on the planet. I love his guides.
Why, thank you. I blush.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And you can send me the check later. Of course, I'm Aerowolf. I go by on Twitter. I go by Aerowolf at ARAWULF. I do write at a blog called thewolfden.com. And for everybody else here on this show, we hope you all had a good time here in the show. We do appreciate any of the Artcraft folks when they do stop by. We always appreciate the interaction from the devs. And of course, we want to continue to help you, the player, on your quest for gold and glory. Have a good night, everybody. Take
Good night,
care.
folks.
Night.